watching me linger. As I paused in the middle of the room, she asked me, "What are you doing here?" I knew this wasn't coming from a deep existential place, but more out of curiosity. But it hit me hard in that moment. My mind raced to find an answer to pacify the fear that was snowballing through my mind. It was 2016, and I was 6 months into a relapse that had crawled up out of nowhere and back into my life. Unexpected and blindsided. What was I doing in this very moment with my life? I felt like I had thrown up my hands and surrendered to this disease at the first glimpse of it creeping back into my life. I had moved to the sidelines and allowed this disease to come back. I watched as it took back the reins that I had held a steady grip on for over a decade. I felt helpless, and I was resigning myself to feeling helpless again. I was diagnosed with anorexia at 14. I had begun using behaviors almost a year before that. I know many find themselves triggered into an eating disorder from a criticism about their body, someone pointing out a flaw, or being involved in a sport that can intensify an already growing self-consciousness. But for me, it was never about a specific look or a magic number that I felt this immense pressure to reach in order for everything to be okay. I never looked in the mirror and felt degraded for not looking a certain way. For me, it had little to do with hunting down society's perfect body. Anorexia for me had everything to do with refusing myself the most basic needs to sustain life. Anorexia was the highest form of punishment I could enact on myself. This self-punishment became the false sense of control that had been stripped from me amidst the chaos in my life. My eating disorder felt like the only avenue I had to be heard to my parents, the directors of my orchestra of chaos. When I felt silence, my eating disorder became my voice. A last-ditch effort, a last-ditch adaptation of an unraveling teenager. If I was restricting, I was numb. If I was numb, no one could penetrate my exterior. The flashbacks of the abuse that had happened couldn't resurface through the hunger, and I was too lifeless to feel any further damage. Every pound I shed was one more layer to protect me from a world that had become too scary to exist in whole. I was desperate to withhold the very thing needed to hold on. Restricting was my white flag. I had to wave that flag for help because I could not scream for it on my own. I could not ask for help from the very people I needed help from, so I let my body say it for me. My malnourished brain became the billboard for my pain. I held on to that voice for years, until I was able to speak for myself. It took years, a slow and awkward emergence into speaking into my own. I grew old enough to let go of the family so toxic to my existence. It wasn't until I could stand on my own It wasn't until I was outside of their intimidating shadows that I could stand on my own. Without them bearing over me, I learned to stand on my own and seek help, real help, and recover. I went into treatment for weeks and came out with an outpatient team I would carry with me through my college years into a solid recovery. A place I stayed in for over a decade, into a strong, healthy marriage and motherhood. It wasn't until those words came out of my daughter's mouth that I realized I wasn't finished just yet. I realized as struggles and stressors would pop back into my life in adulthood, my old ways of coping would haunt me, ingrained so deeply into my mind despite of their absence. But all I could see in that moment was my daughter. I saw her face looking into mine. I couldn't be a bystander in my own life and let my eating disorder swallow me whole, because it would also swallow her. I didn't want her to learn how to handle life the way I had to. I couldn't pass the pain on that I had held on to. Not one more. I wanted so much more for her, and in order to give it to her, I had to stand up and fight. I wallowed for a time, feeling like I would always be just one more. I doubted my value and my ability to withstand recovery in the face of relapse. I didn't know if I could find anyone willing to help me. Then when I found myself surrounded by the supportive care of clinicians and family I didn't expect could ever exist, I doubted my ability to do the work. Recovery is work after all, very hard work. On my good days, I celebrated that effort and reveled in all the possibilities opening up to me. On my difficult days, I thought of my daughter's face. On the days that I wanted to quit, I would draw motivation to not allow her to become one more casualty of this relentless disease. My recovery is my family's recovery too. When I flourish, we flourish together. 3 years ago, I was in my kitchen, hopelessly lost and soaked in denial. 2 years ago, I was in residential treatment again, surrendering to the process. Last year, I was standing where you are now, finding my way. Today, I am on this stage. Time can change so much. Your perspective, your direction, your goals. It is our measure for our immeasurable hope and happening, but your effort ultimately gets you there. Early recovery found me deep in a hole I had excavated myself. It was difficult to see a way out. I spent an inordinate amount of time wondering if I could ever pull myself from the tornado winds that relapse had been sucked into. Could I escape destruction? As I labored through my recovery, I watched that narrative change course. I learned that whatever I had experienced in my past, I was the creator of my future. When I stood up and chose to fight, I was making the statement that I was no longer going to allow anyone or anything to define me without my consent. I decided to write my own story, and I wasn't going to apologize for any edits that needed to be made as I turned each page. If you've surrendered your pen, you can pick it back up again. Rewrite your story. Make recovery your first chapter. Thank you.